obviously, with the CNBC Investment Club, and there is so much to talk about today. First, we know that the markets are indeed trying to hang in there, but tech is weaker. We've got a lot of stocks in tech that still can't get their own footing. We do have an oscillator that's minus 2.4. Now, this is very interesting. When the oscillator is minus 2.4 after a big downdraft, it has tended to not been confirmative of a bottom. In other words, 2.4 is too high. It's going to go lower. This is the work of the people from Market Edge, and I think it's always worth noting because they've been very, very right. There's been a number of times where we've had a big downdraft without the market being oversold, and has meant that there is another downdraft. I'm using that because I want people to be aware of what could happen. We did do 2 trades, though. We bought some AMD. I think AMD is a winner, both because of the possibility that Intel is not going to be able to get out of its morass, and the possibility that Nvidia's Blackwell is somewhat delayed. Remember, Nvidia has the H100, H200, so they're not going to be hurt. But we have to respect the fact that Nvidia's story is negative. We also, just in terms of, I interviewed the Assistant Attorney General for Antitrust, Jonathan Cantor, this morning on Squawk on the Street, very negative about Alphabet. Terrible. I mean, betting that they've really done the wrong thing. They're monopolists. And by collateral damage, of course, they're negative for Apple because Google writes a check to Apple that the Justice Department argued is anti-competitive, and the judge agreed. Now, we know that there's a couple of years you have to appeal. They'll be able to do this. It's not like that right now Alphabet's going to say, you know what, we're not going to pay you anymore, Apple, and good luck. That doesn't happen. So that matters. So, and Eaton, well, that's data center, but it's derivative data center. You know, yesterday we bought Dover. I don't want to give up on the data center thesis because that's a long-term secular trend. We need more power, and these are the companies that make it so that they're more powerful. We need more cooling. We need more. We need the grid fixed. These are what we're staying with, and I like our thesis. Now, again, I'm very negative and worried about. I'm worried about Alphabet. It's very negative, but it is my least favorite of the Mag 7. There was a really horrible piece, basically a hit job by Morgan Stanley on Amazon. They lowered the price target to 210. They kept the stock overweight, but they're talking about that they lowered EBITDA by 12% due to greater than expected merchandise margin pressure. And oh my God, they said that basically there's a multifaceted and disappointing series of events at Amazon. I want to counter that with the fact that Amazon's gone straight down, and that Amazon is just being very cautious about the consumer. And if the consumer bounces back, everything will be fine. One of the things that they're talking about with the consumer is that and this is kind of an odd thing. I'll explain this. It's going to take a bit. They don't like the fact that they're smaller units, and of course they have to deliver them same day. Those are expensive, low margin pieces of business. But at the same time, that business used to go to CVS and used to go to Walgreens. Those two companies are very hobbled. If you can imagine, Amazon, don't listen to this, Justice Department, Amazon keeps prices down. Those companies have to close thousands of stores, and then Amazon does very, very well. I don't think they'll raise prices, but I think that, again, if you're the FTC, you're going to be looking at that and saying, wait a second, did they deliberately wipe out CVS and Walgreens? That is for another day, but it will be front and center. We do have, by the way, some ancillary techs that are doing well. We've got like a ServiceNow up very big. We have enterprise software. We have CRM going up. These are, and then we have like things like IBM. They're just going higher, and so therefore it's a very mixed picture because Dell is going down, and I already described what's going on with Alphabet. Now let's talk about a couple other things. The GE Healthcare got an upgrade today. Now that's important because GE Healthcare actually had a very good quarter, record backlog of $19 billion, but it is completely the market is ignoring it entirely. And I think that's a mistake to ignore it. I think it's a very positive story, but I would point out that it's been torture for us. And then I'll do rapid fire, and then I'll go to something else that's very important that I'm going to give you. Caterpillar beats the top and bottom line at various times. Cat's been up and down this morning. I happen to like the quarter. CrowdStrike upgrade from Piper Sandler. I totally agree with that because I think the worst might be over. And the last downdraft was caused by Delta, and I think the evidence is negative for bad for Delta. I think that they did not help their customers. I think they spent all their time at Bastion not taking George Kurtz's call, who is the CEO of CrowdStrike. So I don't really like the Delta case. and I do like CrowdStrike. Uber, much better than expected quarter. And Derek also, sorry, had a great thing to say. Palantir, much better than expected, and that's AI, by the way. And then Kenvue, which is a defensive stock, well, better than expected. Now, here's tonight I'm looking at, okay? Tonight, I'm going over this. I'm going to spend some time on this too. Right now, there is a view that this market is being driven down by the unwinding of a bunch of trades in Japan where they borrowed money very low and then bought a lot of things. Then the yen moved up and the interest rates were raised by the Bank of Japan. And that unwound the trade, which made it so they had to sell whatever stocks they had bought on the borrowed money. That makes sense to me. Now, here's what doesn't make sense to me. If you think that you should have a view, and the view was wrong. And the view in America was that we're going to have a recession. Now, if that's the case, then why are the following, all within the last 24 hours, saying good things? Okay, here we go. Planet Fitness, much better than expected. Palantir, much better than expected. Simon Property, the big mall company, just incredibly better than expected. Starwood declares the next 2 dividends. That's commercial real estate. Can you imagine? It's supposed to be so bad. Excellent. CSX with a terrific quarter. Plastics, NGL leading there. That's chemicals. Very strong. Caterpillar, we went over that, but that's earth moving, and it's a very, very good quarter. Lumen, now this is a company that does broadband, and they have a huge number, $5 billion worth of AI orders. That's contra to the theory that there is no AI, which we've been dealing with. Uber, you don't need to take Uber if you don't want to or don't have to. And the fact is that the consumer spending on Uber, both for delivery and for themselves going places. For delivery, that means you can actually say some good things about DoorDash, which is what people are doing. Yum, you don't need to go out. Now, Yum does have a value meal at Taco Bell, and that seems to be winning. But believe me, if the other sides were losing, and that is Kentucky Fried Chicken and Pizza Hut, which is really bad, if those are losing, and you can still get Yum stock up, that tells me that things are better than expected. Lucid got a cash infusion. They're getting a lifeline that can continue to go on. Celsius was better than expected. A lot of people felt the energy drinks were out of gas. Apparently not. Builder First Source, BLDR, initially down a lot. This is renovation and remodel, which, by the way, was said by last night by Weyerhaeuser on Mad Money that that's doing badly. Well, maybe something's getting better. Builders First Source would indicate that. We had Tanger on last night. That is outlet malls doing amazingly well. And then everyone thinks that the liquor business may be over because of the GLP-1s. If that's the case, why is Molson, symbol TAP, doing so well? And then JP Morgan comes out this morning and recommends hard the Royal Caribbean, hard. And I think that that's very important. Now, other things that I like away from tech, the banks are starting to come back. That's very, very important. Without the banks, we can't really have a sound rally just because that's people worrying about credit. If they're worried about credit, the bank stocks will be down, and they're not. I'm taking note of that in my notes because what I'm trying to do and what I always do at this hour, as soon as I leave Jeff, is I try to figure out what I'm going to say on the show, a little insight to what we're doing. Just some final thoughts. There is a belief from my friend Larry Williams, who has been dead right, who said that we were going to have a downdraft here. He predicted a bounce and then a resumption of the decline. I know that seems like conventional wisdom, but I like Larry because what he does is he looks at trends, it looks at history, and he sees, it just, you can believe it or not, he believes that this stabilization cannot hold. Me, I think that, well, you know what? It depends on the stock. I think that about a third of the market has already bottomed. There's another third that is trying to find its way. And then there's another third, which feels like Alphabet and Apple. And it doesn't really matter that those were hit by justice. The fact is, if they were really strong and doing well, we would just say, you know what, it's going to be years before this matters. But instead, we're paying very close attention to it. As usual, the most important name in this market is Nvidia, which is now a ridiculed name and a belief that they really are late with Blackwell. And the lateness has to do with the fact that it's burning too hot. I cannot get that story. I have looked and looked and looked, but I am telling you that that is the story and that is the narrative that people care about. So does it really matter if I can't find out that it's true? I would tell you that it's taken on a life of its own, and they don't report till the end of the month. So there's no way they can defend themselves. This is Jim Cramer for Jeff Marks for the morning meeting, exclusive for the